All right, this video is going to walk you through how to get the maximum and minimum of a graph, increasing and decreasing intervals, intercepts, and domain and range. Let's get through the first part by getting our equation into our calculator. The first thing you need to press is y equals. If you're on the main screen like this, just press y equals, type in your equation. Don't forget the x button is right here to make x show up. The square button is right here to make the square show up. Once you get that in there, press zoom 6 to get your screen back to a normal 10 by 10 screen, just like what you see in the question. I want to try to create that graph as well. I'll sketch it out right here for now. I can see it's going up and then back down, crossing the x-axis in two places. And the first thing we want to do is try to find the relative maximum. The maximum would be the highest point the graph gets to. We got to find that point. The way you're going to do that is press second trace. And when you press second trace, you're going to find two options for minimum and maximum. But since you're looking for the maximum, you're going to press option 4. Press 4. Now it says left bound. Make sure your cursor is to the left of the highest point. You see my cursor on the left? Now I can press enter. Then hold the right arrow key down. Make sure your cursor is on the right side of your highest, or in this case point, and then hit enter also. Now when I hit enter one more time, it will then change from guess to the actual word maximum, and I now have my point. Your calculator is going to do the best it can. That number is so close to 1, but it isn't 1, but you're going to say it's 1, 2. Pretty easy to see right there. So you're going to make that your first point. So go to 1, 2, 1 over 2 up. Then you're going to try to figure out, I need to figure out one more point that's on the graph. If you press your trace key and type any other number around the number 1, like the number 2 or 3, I'll hit 3, for example, it'll tell me the coordinate that goes with that. And then I'll have 3, -2. So make that be your other button you're going to then, or coordinate you're going to put onto the graph as well. So by pressing trace and then pressing a number other than that vertex value that you just put in there, you can get the other coordinate that's on there. Another place you could go is going to the table. You can sometimes visually see the maximum on there as well. As you can see, whoops, that was a good spot to be. As you can see here, it goes -7, then it goes -2, 1, 2, and it goes back down with the exact same numbers. I can see that 1, 2 from the table is the maximum point as well. And then if I wanted to pick one more point off the table like I just did, if I choose 3, you'll see that 3, -2 is on there also. So if you can find the vertex from the table, then just pick any other coordinate off the table and put that on the graph paper here as well. It'll make the exact same graph. So I need to go over here and put in 2, 1 for my my highest, 1, 2, sorry, for my highest point. So 1, 2. And then I need to find my minimum. Now as I look at the graph, a minimum means it's a spot in the graph where the graph gets down to and then stops at. Well, this graph never stops going down, so it's not going to have a minimum. If your graph is going the other way, opening upward, you would not have a maximum, and then you would have a minimum. But this graph's opening down, so you're going to have no minimum, so you're going to put D and E for those kind of questions like this. So D and E goes here. All right, next. When is this graph increasing? We start checking out when graphs increase or decrease, starting from the left, and then moving over to the right. Now, when you come in from the left, you're always going up through this parabola, and then you stop going up at this point right here. And that point right there is at 1, 2, if you recall. So that's 1, 2. So you're going to stop going up at the number of the x values. Remember, intervals for increase and decrease are all coming off of this x-axis. So it comes in from -1 and stops going up at +1. We use interval notation to show that, and you never increase or decrease at the starting points. So in this case right here, I'll go -∞, comma 1, and then I'm going to go with parentheses around this entire thing here. That shows the interval of when it's actually going up. Now as I keep going from left to right, it starts to go down, as you can see off to the right here, when I get over to the part here to the right. So that means this continues to go down after the 1 on the x-axis, going off to infinity on the right. So that looks like this then. You're going to go from 1 with parentheses again, because at 1 you're not doing either, comma, and then infinity. That's what that looks like. Then if we're asking you to find y-intercepts, you're putting 0 in for x and then finding the output you get when you put 0 in for x. Well, if my 0 input makes this go into 0 here, 0 here, all you have is a 1. So the answer is going to be 0, 1. I can do that simply by using my algebra skills, but you can also use the calculator to find it as well. If you just press these buttons, trace, 0, enter, that will also tell you the answer as well for the y-intercept, and that is at 0, 1. Next, if you want to find x-intercepts, there's an additional thing you have to add to your y equals window. You have to make sure you add a second equation in there at y2 = 0. Then once you've done that, the key combination you press next is second trace 5. You'll see your cursor somewhere on the screen. I see it right there. If I want to find the one on the right first, I have to hold my right arrow key down and move that cursor over to where it's crossing the x-axis. Then press enter, enter, enter. It'll then say the word intersection. If it does not say intersection there, you don't have the intersection, or the x-intercept. So this one's here, you're going to have a coordinate at 2.414. Make sure you round correctly too. There's my first coordinate, and that's comma 0. And then my other coordinate is going to be this other spot over here on the left. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go second trace 5, and then I'm going to move my cursor over to the left. And if I do that, when I do this, I get enter, enter, enter. That one goes to negative 0.851. So negative 0.851, like this, comma 0. And then after I finish that, I now have my 2 coordinates of my x-intercepts. Hopefully that wasn't too difficult. The last thing you need to do is figure out domain and range. Again, domain talks about how far left and right this graph goes. Now this graph goes down forever to the left, and it goes down forever to the right. So it covers every x value off the x-axis. When that happens, as an interval, you're going to write it out like this. You'll say negative infinity, comma, positive infinity. It covers every number. Now, as we talk about the range, if this coordinate right here, the highest point was at 2, this graph goes down forever here to negative infinity, and it goes up to and as high as positive 2. So range is always talking about the y-axis values, which is going from negative infinity up to 2. And then if I'm going to describe that as an interval, you do it this way. You say negative infinity, like this, and then you're going to go comma, the highest point it gets to is at 2. But 2 is part of the graph, so you have to use a bracket to show that that's part of the graph by using this right-hand bracket like this. That's basically it. That's how you walk through a question like this, and hopefully this video helps.